30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning to my viewers in North and South America. Good afternoon to my viewers in Europe and Africa. Good very early morning or evening to my viewers in the Pacific Rim, and welcome to a very special episode of The Angry Astronaut. First and foremost, let me apologize for any background noise you may be getting. That is purely temporary. Down here in the dungeon of my father's house when I stay here in Colorado Springs, we have the climate control system down here, and it can make a bit of a deafening noise. I hope it's not too bad for you guys. So let's go ahead and find out who's checking in from where first. We have over 150 people watching already this early in the morning. That's very cool stuff indeed. Hello, Hong Kong. Are you, I believe you may be the same person that I met in Canada who lives in Hong Kong. Not sure, but we have a Denmark and we have 4 marks. And yes, and we have, and I believe, I want to be clear about this, Damien. I think I'm right about this. When you're talking Clifton, you're also talking Dublin, which is something I didn't actually know. And then we have Finland and Malaysia, UK and Glasgow. Good. I'm glad we don't have any background noise because, man, it sounds deafening to me. Hamburg, Mulheim Monroe, hello, Carl. And we have Finland and we have France. Long Island, hello. And then we have Valdosta. That's where my nephew went to school, by the way. And we have Lancashire, and we have Leeds. And then we have Morgan near Guilford. Hello, Andy. Thank you so much for being with us today. And then we have Essex, Wisconsin, and Scotland. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we also have Stratford and Syria. Hello, Syria. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope things are going well there. Mexico, UK, Logansport, Indiana. Just drove through Indiana not that long ago. Schönes Wochenende to you as well, Anton Nim. And hello again to Sweden and Birmingham and Rockland County, New York. And we also have Brazil, hello, and west of Antarctica. And of course, we have our awesome producer. So people checking in from everywhere. Elmar, thank you so much for that quick and immediate support. And since you've all, boy, and I'll tell you, it just goes on and on. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. You are just fantastic. So once again, I want to thank all of you. And now that this super chat's been made, I just want to go ahead and make a quick announcement. It is my intention to continue my tour in Europe. October 2nd is when I am making my way to Britain, to Milton Keynes. However, it is my intention to go ahead and start my tour in Britain afterwards. And we'll, of course, go from Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Belgium, Holland, Italy, everywhere I can get to, depending on how much I can raise for this. And the details are in the description if you would like to contribute to that. But I'm very excited about the prospect of meeting all of you. And the tour thus far here in North America has been so fantastic. One other announcement I want to make real quick is the fact that even though I've had to postpone my Flagstaff and Denver events until November, when I'm going to be coming back to see my son's performance at a jazz ensemble in Clemson, Denver is on again. I have a Denver event scheduled a week from today at the Westminster Recreation Center. The details are going to be, I need to add those into the description, but I also released a short that has those details in the comments. And it's going to be a week from today from 5:30 to 7:30, $10 in advance or $15 at the door. Wow, Michael Patterson, thank you so much for the generous support. Really, really do appreciate that. Thank you for that awesome super chat. Once again, the best ways to support me, the super chats definitely help me in the long run. In the short run, for immediate support, that's in the description. My GoFundMe page probably being the best one there if you want to contribute. Okay, enough self-promotion there. Let's talk about this amazing event that we have coming up here. You may, of course, see the image that you have here. I'm not sure if that's frozen or not, but it's provided to us by our generous and amazing Darth Rust, that shows the progress of the pod that was dropped off just a couple of hours ago by the OSIRIS-REx mission. To give you an idea of what you're looking at right now, that's not the entire probe. The OSIRIS-REx probe was, of course, substantially larger and more ambitious than that, with lots of instruments. And all that is coming down to us right now is a receptacle for the samples that were taken, and not much either. We're only talking a few ounces worth of material that was taken from the asteroid Bennu. And what a difficult and exciting process it was for them to try to collect those samples. It was difficult indeed, and the reason for that is the asteroid Bennu is what we call a rock pile asteroid, a certain type of C-class asteroid that's nothing more than lots of debris barely held together by the force of gravity, which means that the surface there's no sort of surface elasticity. There's no, and so therefore there's nothing really to land on. Instead, and it caught NASA very much by surprise. When this probe landed to collect its samples, it immediately sank straight down into the surface of the asteroid as if the surface wasn't even really there. The engines fired automatically. It was just a brief grab the sample and take it straight back up was the objective. And it's good that they did it that way, because otherwise Bennu most probably would have, or rather the OSIRIS-REx would have ended up inside of Bennu. And of course, that's the reason why you don't see any craters on Bennu or anything else that we're usually accustomed to seeing on these types of objects. Instead, what we see just appears to be a rock pile, and again, barely held together by the force of gravity. Bennu is a potentially dangerous asteroid. Sometime in the 22nd century, there is a possibility that it could come into contact with the Earth. Of course, that's a long time from now, but nevertheless, it's one of those few asteroids that appears to be on a collision course, or might be on a collision course with our planet. And if it were to hit us, it's a pretty sizable asteroid. It would be very damaging. So in many ways, this part of the objective of this mission is to find out as much as we can about it and come up with a plan for knocking it off its course, to drive it away from its current trajectory. So really, really appreciate, again, everybody checking in. We currently have a countdown, by the way. The probes is still a substantial distance away from atmospheric entry. And once we get to that point, we are definitely going to be bringing you that information. John Depker, thank you so much. Any ideas to what type of rock this would be? It's more just like a bunch of fragments and such. There's definitely a lot of carbon. C-class asteroids are characterized by that. Also, maybe some ice, although That is sort of unlikely because usually in these types of asteroids, the ice is deeper inside the asteroid than we were able to sample. But a great deal of carbon. That is one thing that is characteristic of these types of asteroids. It's not nickel iron. It's not that type of asteroid, which is really not that common, actually. C-class asteroids are far more common. But, of course, we're extremely interested in these types of asteroids because it has been theorized that this is really how life was brought to the planets, or to our planet and perhaps other planets in the solar system, because the important components for life are carried inside C-class asteroids, water, carbon, etc. Those are two very important fundamentals. And what will remain to be seen is, are there other components, that could help the process of the evolution of life. Of course, there are some who have theorized about the possibility that this probe may be bringing back something that is alive. That is extremely unlikely. And the reason for that is even though these asteroids do have most of the necessary components for life, liquid water never existed on Bennu, at least as far as we know. And so without liquid water, you generally can't have life, at least not life as we understand it. So therefore, the possibility of life having evolved on an asteroid like Bennu is very, very remote. However, NASA is taking no chances. They're taking no chances with this situation, and that is one of the reasons why they're making sure that that this probe is going to be thoroughly isolated. And this is going to be a multi-step process. When it comes down, the probe will first be checked to see whether or not the heat has dissipated sufficiently before they're going to send in a scientific team. Also, they're going to check to see if it's managed to maintain its integrity. That's an important thing too. If it has broke open to any degree, that could, of course, be a real problem. Not a problem in terms of being dangerous, but rather a problem of atmospheric contamination from our own planet. That's something that we would prefer to, avoid. It could really mess up the quality of the samples. And by the way, what we're seeing today may be a prelude for the Mars sample recovery mission. I think that it's what's being done here could be very, very similar to the process that's going to be experienced by the Mars sample recovery. Because once again, OSIRIS-REx is kind of hurtling through our system right now. It's OSIRIS-REx is not in orbit around our planet or anything at the moment after dropping off this payload. Instead, it was put on a trajectory whereby it could return to Earth by 2025 in the event that the first sample return attempt turned out to not be viable. In other words, if they didn't have a great opportunity to dump it off the first time, they would get another opportunity in 2025. But obviously, that's not what happened here. They had a go, no go poll a few hours ago, and they got the thumbs up. So now we are committed. We are 100% committed to this mission. So very, very excited to see what's going to happen here. Once again, thanks very much for watching, everybody who's tuned in. We got over 200 people watching. Please like and please subscribe. That's all very, very important. And once again, if you would like to contribute to the European leg of my tour, this ongoing tour, that's in the description, or you can contribute through Super Chats if you wish as well. That is up to you. Any thoughts about Varda's space? Well, once again, this particular test range in Utah where this sample is being dropped off at the moment is the same location that Varda Space was planning to use to bring their own samples back, to bring the medications that they processed. For those of you unfamiliar, Varda Space had a satellite that was manufacturing pharmaceuticals in microgravity, an environment where you can produce certain pharmaceuticals a lot more efficiently, and also you can make new types of pharmaceuticals that are impossible to make here on Earth. And then they were planning to bring the payload back and to that particular test range, and then the FAA said no dice without a whole lot of explanation. They just said no dice. And the military also are saying no dice about all this. So frustrating, to say the least. So in any event, but in any event, hopefully Varda Space can work this out. In the meantime, their competitor, Space Forge, is also planning on launching a similar vehicle this year. However, one of the differences is that they're a British company, and they may decide to try to bring it back somewhere in the UK instead of bringing it back here. If it lands in my backyard, can I keep it? Do you think this is just politics, says Kai? Yeah. When it comes to what is happening with Varda Space, absolutely. And that's my opinion. And the reason I believe that is I saw an interview with one of their engineers where he described how difficult it was to get certain politicians buy-in because they got about $15 million in public funding, but it was difficult to get the support of politicians for this particular endeavor. And that is beyond frustrating. And of course, the reasons that were expressed, obviously, is these politicians are heavily compensated by big pharmaceutical companies, and anything that might endanger the status quo is something that they don't want to happen. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a political issue at all. Here, NASA is going to be making findings on the scientists finding the samples from the Johnson Space Center on the 11th of October. That could be very, very interesting. Any chance of the Andromeda strain happening? Well, Bob, once again, for those of you familiar with that particular movie, yeah, this is exactly the type of probe that was described. It was called Scoop in the Andromeda strain. And this is exactly the type of probe that brought back this incredibly deadly alien disease that was described in that movie. But once again, we don't have the conditions that are conducive for the evolution of life on this asteroid at all, and that's because liquid water never existed inside Bennu, at least as far as we know. So the evolution for something, bacterial life, viral life, whatever you want to call it, for that to have evolved somehow inside Bennu, next to impossible. Although there are extremophiles that can survive in space. If, bacteria were to come from another planet and happen to be sitting on Bennu or inside Bennu, yeah, it's possible that it could have survived all this time. But once again, ridiculously unlikely. But yeah, they're not taking any chances. They're being very cautious about this process. Okay. It's going to be we still have a little time before the atmospheric reentry is going to be starting in about half an hour or so. Yeah. Do you, is there a countdown there, producer? Okay. So we have apparently a live camera shot currently so apparently they've got an idea of where it's coming down, and they're getting a firsthand view of it. So that's pretty exciting. But yes, it has not yet hit the atmosphere. In the meantime, I'd like to also express some thanks here real quick. Over the weekend, I received a couple of really generous donations on the GoFundMe. from a fellow named Brian Benahy. And of course, I went off of the screen there. So we had, and also Brennahy, actually, and then Johann Brewer, I believe. $40 and $15 contributed. Once again, just so you guys know, that is going to go towards the European leg of my tour. Thank you very much for your support. And again, if that's something you guys would like to be a part of, it's in the description, the GoFundMe page, and the link is all right there. Okay, once again, enough of that. Let's get back to what's happening right here. The bug in the Andromeda strain, a silicate life form. Yeah, it was. It's the type of life form, actually, that would have survived entering our atmosphere. It didn't need to be brought back by a probe or anything like that. If the meteor that had that disease on it had just flown through our atmosphere, it would have survived the experience because it was a life form that fed off of energy. It devoured energy and reproduced as a result. And then if there's an exciting part, I shouldn't say anything more. Boy, serious spoiler alerts here. But for those of you familiar with it, the ending, of course, is very exciting as they're trying to prevent something that would create a super colony of this nasty virus. Really, really good movie. And by the way, a really, really bad remake that was made on the Sci-Fi Channel, a horrendous steaming pile of garbage that they made. Just an insult to the whole concept. So what are you going to do? You know, the older movies are usually the better ones. Okay, so and yeah, that's true, Jonathan. Good point, what you just said there. But what ended up happening is it did have a small bit of a meteor impact into its scoop, so to speak, greenish meteor of some kind that, of course, had the nasty Andromeda strain on it. Okay, enough science fiction discussions. Once again, I am in no way saying that there's any sort of likelihood that we're going to have some sort of alien disease on this probe. Just to be clear, the Japanese have already done 2 asteroid sample returns without any problems whatsoever. So I would say that that we're pretty safe in that regard. I would say the main thing, once again, that NASA is concerned about is any sort of you know, the thing they're most concerned about is atmospheric contamination of whatever sample they get being contaminated if it were to break open on impact or something like that. Calling the sci-fi version a dumpster fire is being kind. Yeah, John, you're absolutely right about that. Beyond pathetic, really, really bad. So anyway, let's see here. Boy, 265 people watching again. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe. Once again, want to repeat that I have my Denver event. I had an awesome viewer who managed to work something out with the Westminster Park and Rec. And now we're going to be having the Denver event a week from today, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. If you'd like to be a part of that, again, $10 online in my GoFundMe, $15 at the door if you want to do it that way. Okay. Yeah, it's amazing how many, you're right, Kenneth. A lot of people are really participating in what's going on here. Really, it's great to see all the commentary. It's great to see all the knowledge that we have about this. Once again, we have a feed from NASA in the upper right. And then down in the lower right, we have the current location of the capsule that's about to begin atmospheric reentry. ETA about 25 minutes from now, I believe. And we'll have the capsule will begin its atmospheric reentry process. And then after that, probably another 15 or 20 minutes, something along those lines, before it's going to be touching down. And then after that, of course, they need to assess the integrity of the pod. make sure that it didn't break or crack open, make sure that it's safe, make sure that it's cooled down sufficiently. Then once it has cooled down sufficiently, a scientific team will then be sent in to retrieve it. So that is part of the problem. Thank you, John, for that information. By the way, that's 10:55 Eastern Standard Time. So not a yes. Thank you very much, Andy. UTC, which I believe that's an hour ahead of UK time. I believe there's a 5-hour difference with UK time. Yes, that's correct, Tiberius. When we're talking about overflowing, that was part of the problem. The probe picked up more material than was anticipated. And again, to kind of repeat what I said a while ago, part of the reason for that is the probe sank right down into the asteroid. We expected that there would be at least a little bit of surface resistance, but on this rock pile asteroid, there was virtually none. And so even though the probe was descending very, very, very slowly to grab that sample and go back up, it just sank right down into the asteroid. We nearly lost it. And in the process, it scooped up substantially more material than we were anticipating, and as a result, it was difficult to seal up the container, and that was all quite a challenge as well. But like as NASA is wont to do, they managed to figure it out. They managed to correct the problem, and so we have a sample coming back, and that is great stuff. Like I say, once again, not the first time that this has ever happened. The Japanese have done this before, but nevertheless, it hasn't happened too many times. And also, I believe this may be the first time that we are retrieving samples from an asteroid of this particular type. And of course, every asteroid is unique. So we may find things in this asteroid that are substantially different than the others. And once again, we need to remember that that Bennu is a potential hazard to our planet. For those of you who weren't here a little while ago when I was talking about that, yes, it is indeed, Stephen, the first Bennu sample ever. Maybe the only one we'll ever get. But in the 22nd century, Bennu has a chance of impacting the Earth, and it's a big asteroid. I mean, not colossal, not a planet killer, but the damage it would wreak would be very substantial, the power of many atomic bombs in a single blast. So ultimately, it's a problem that we should deal with. So in addition to the scientific knowledge that we're going to gain from this, there's a practical benefit as well, to eventually provide some protection for our planet from the threat of this asteroid. Real American, thank you so much for your generous support, and thanks very much to everybody who's been contributing up to this point. Again, let me tell you something, makes a huge difference to what I do. And also, as I said before, now I'm coming to Europe, and I'll be doing a minimum of 2 cities in every country that I visit. The large countries, that is, in countries like Holland, in Belgium, it'll be 1 city. But France, Germany, Italy, UK, places like that, we'll be looking at 2 cities per location. So very, very excited about that. Any funds that I raise today are going to be used for that purpose. So very excited about that. And thank you very much for helping that make that happen. And once again, the topic is how Starship will save the world. And one of the things I've been discussing are the benefits that space can bring to humanity that NASA doesn't talk about. For some reason, NASA is underselling the benefit that they could bring to human civilization. And it's just disastrous. That's something that we absolutely need to do something about. And hopefully we will at some point, but not happening yet. So apparently Utah is kind of soggy. Thank you very much for the information, the update, the 21 minutes. We have 279 people tuned in right now. And just to be clear, the 21-minute estimate is for atmospheric reentry. when this capsule will make contact with the atmosphere and begin the reentry process. And, that's going to be the moment of truth. Will it survive? Will the heat shield hold up as it's designed to do? Did it take did it take a bit of a pounding, when the sample was retrieved, because it sank right down into the asteroid and came back up? Did it get damaged in the process? We can't say for certain. Thus far, the state of the probe seems very, very good. As far as we know, everything's in good shape. But we're not going to know for certain, obviously, until that moment arrives. Once again, guys, please don't forget, please like and please subscribe. Very important to my channel. 280 people tuning in to watch this historic event. As I say, not the first time that we have brought material back from an asteroid, not the first time that humanity has. This is the first time that NASA's ever done it. Japan has done it before. So once again, thanks very much. By the way, feel free to ask any other questions about other topics that you would like to discuss, to give you some upcoming topics. Going to be talking about a new type of nuclear rocket that NASA has green lighted for some, they've provided some funding through NIAC. And we're talking about a ridiculously powerful nuclear rocket that has the potential of traveling anywhere between 5 to 10% of the speed of light. We're talking about the potential of going from here to Mars in about 90 minutes, not 90 days, 90 minutes with current day technology. At least that's what the author of the NIAC study says. And apparently it was convincing enough to get some money from NASA. Pretty exciting. But of course, NASA funds a lot of things through NIAC. But when I read about that, that was crazy, crazy exciting, to say the least. So what else? And then other topics coming up. The U.S. Border Patrol, for those of you who are not familiar with all that, they just dumped a lot of UAP footage out on the web, lots of it. And I've had a chance to watch nearly all of that last night. And also they released over 300 pages of information that they have gathered about UAP sightings that their own personnel have caught. And the information surrounding those. One of them, by the way, is obviously a hang glider. I'm not even sure why they put that on there. Maybe as an example of some of the identified objects that they see from time to time. One of them was unquestionably a hang glider. But there are some others that seem to fit those little sphere UFOs or UAPs, whatever you want to call them, that we have been finding in other locations or seeing in other locations around the world, usually in close proximity to our military assets. And by the way, they caught one of these things. A Warthog jet went by, and this little sphere turned around and started following it at high speed and kept pace with it. Completely changed trajectory and started following it. Amazing stuff. I would have said that was faked. I would have said that was a forgery if I didn't know where it came from. Pretty amazing stuff. So yeah, that's correct. An A-10 Warthog, correct. An A-10 Warthog. And yeah, this little spherical UFO, similar to the ones that we've been seeing in other footage, it just made a really quick and crazy trajectory change and started chasing after the A-10 for a considerable portion of the footage. Amazing stuff. And again, according to the Border Patrol, this is all legitimate stuff. So yeah, the A-10 doesn't do too well and when it's being chased by anything. But again, from what we've seen thus far, these spheres don't seem to present any sort of threat to anything or anybody. They just seem to be watching us. But yeah, interesting stuff that's going on with all that. By the way, there is one particular incident with a spherical UFO that involved 17 deaths, 17 dead Russian soldiers. This is according to a CIA file. The CIA declassified a number of documents, and I had a chance to research some of that. For those of you who haven't watched that particular episode, check it out, because one of the conditions I said, I wanted 4,000 likes, and I would make another CIA UFO video. For those of you who want to see more of that, make sure that you check out that video if you haven't already done so. Okay, enough UFO stuff. So that's another topic we'll be talking about. Also, we'll be talking about the state of SLS and the fact that an independent audit has unsurprisingly discovered that SLS is unaffordable, that we're not going to be able, Artemis is simply going to fail on the current funding that NASA has. And so the topic of the video is, can we save SLS? Is there a way to save SLS? Are we reliant entirely on Starship? Because even though obviously Starship is a better solution, we're a long ways away from that spacecraft, from being where it is right now, to a spacecraft that's going to be human rated and capable of handling the entire mission, from liftoff to landing on the moon to return. So yeah, another Boeing ripoff. You're right about that. And also not a set price, not a fixed price contract either, which gives Boeing the opportunity of overcharging the American taxpayer. But now this independent audit has made it very clear that if Boeing continues this overcharging, that the project is simply going to fail. And so now we have a choice. Are we in the process of atmospheric reentry? Let's go ahead and cut in NASA's feed and their audio to see where we are currently. It'll take a minute or two to bring the audio. Okay. Oh, sorry guys, you've got the audio. I'll shut up. I'm waiting for my audio.
We just called you. Reach just called you.
Go ahead, Breach.
Hearing nothing.
Oh, copy. Here is left, right. Copy.
Recovery operations, helicopter 2, will be part of it. The station keep outside the lane. SOC is 1,900 kilometers from the If you want to do that status.
I said we log into the Open's channel.
Got it. That's good.
Kilo aircraft, Mach 2 BA5, 9 Johnson Air now 3015.
You might have an update feed from Kilo 2 there, trying to checkpoint the acquisition location.
said no, but they have so many other audio sources on that I skipped radio.
Chris, thank you so much for the tenor. Really do appreciate your support there.
All stations, 5 minutes. Atmosphere, treatments.
So there's no audio on the YouTube side?
I mean, they've got the NASA live audio.
Okay. All right. I'm apparently listening to some narration going on. I apologize that we're trying to make sure that we get everything properly coordinated with NASA right now. So in any event, once again, I just wanted to say thank you to Chris for the 10 quid. Really do appreciate that. As I say, any contributions that I received today, whether they be super chats or preferably also some contributions to my GoFundMe, either one though is very helpful to me. That's going towards the European leg of my tour. I've decided to continue How Starship Will Save the World in Europe. And it will be starting in the UK, obviously in London, and then a city in the north. Not sure where just yet. Not sure if it might be Edinburgh, or it might go a little further south, perhaps to York, Manchester, something like that. But in any event, I'll be in the south and I'll be in the north. I'm looking forward to that because of you guys.
You know, if you put your drink just
all right. So apparently you guys are getting the NASA chatter, the what's being said currently. Can we, producer, do we have specific information on the feed at the bottom right? That is to say that image as to where the pod is currently.
I just realized the same thing about my Vita Coco. I was like, oh, maybe.
Sure. Sure, we're going to post a link in the chat for you guys to follow that particular image if you want to. Paul, thank you so much for the 2 quid. Really do appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, we are super close to re-entry, guys. This is indeed the moment of truth. Producer, can we go full screen on the capsule? Yeah, on the bottom right. Oh, really? Okay. Apparently, I won't be heard if we go full. Okay, no problem. We're going to take a moment to work this out. So you're saying you could go full screen, producer, but then it'll take a minute or two to plug me in, correct? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go full screen here, and then I'm going to be with you here in just a moment. And yes, John, I will help save those damn Daleks. So I can be heard, correct, producer? Okay. All right. So here we are with the situation with the capsule. Apparently, I'm not seeing an altitude on this, though, only just the feed. I don't suppose, producer, can I hear what they're hearing in terms of the NASA chatter? Is that possible? Okay, so we are in the midst of atmospheric reentry right now, just to be clear. The heat shield is experiencing the inferno of reentry at this moment. And so we're definitely going through probably one of the scariest moments of this process. Impact with the Earth, of course, is going to make a difference too. But this is definitely the time where if something's going to go seriously wrong, it could definitely happen here. Okay, we're going to switch back to the main scene, the main feed, just because they have a look at what's going on there. So waiting for that to come up. Producer, I can't see the upper right. All I have is, oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, so now we have the tracking camera on the pod itself. It seems to have gone through the vast majority of the heating process, so it seems to have survived, at least as far as we know. I don't see a drogue chute opening yet, but that will be the next step in this process. Looks like they're having a little problem even tracking it on camera. Looks like they may have lost it. All right. They're trying to, let's see here if we can, let's see if they'll be able to spot it when the drogue chute opens, because that will be the next step in the process. Assuming, of course, that the whole thing survived, assuming the chutes even open. We can't say for certain that any of that is going to happen. So this is a tense moment. I don't see the vehicle even on screen. All right. Producer, do you have an altitude currently? Okay. We're just bringing it up right now. This is curious. Once again, I would have expected to have seen something at this point, but when the drogue chute opens, at least that should be a very obvious thing. We can. This is very interesting. I'm not sure. They do appear to be tracking its downward motion, no question about that. But it's if they are indeed tracking it, man, it seems to be plunging, or either that or they're looking for it, because I really don't think that they've managed to get it on camera. Yep, and then we just lost the feed. Oh, there we go. Looks like they might have caught it there. Huh. Once again. Okay, so apparently in 2 minutes, that's actually when we're going to have the main chute deployed. I don't know if the drogue chute has been deployed yet or not. It doesn't appear so. The drogue chute is deployed. Okay, so apparently we have deployment from the drogue chute. I'm just curious as to why we aren't seeing it on camera. I mean, it's not an easy thing to track, the tiny little object in the atmosphere. Okay. All right. So we're checking the live feed currently, and again. All right. So this appears to be the feed from the capsule itself. That's obviously why we're not seeing the capsule. There's another shot of it. Okay, now I understand what's going on. And one of you have probably already pointed this out, that we're maybe looking at a perspective from the vehicle along with the vehicle itself. Let's have a look and see. Okay, there we go. No, it looks like they've caught it on. We have main parachute deployment now. Good. I was worried there for a minute, but now we have main parachute deployment. Things are looking good. All right, guys. Gotcha. So they were trying to track this with their high altitude camera. And so that's what we were looking at. And then finally they spotted it when the main chute opened. So we're going to have touchdown here momentarily, and hopefully. Okay, go ahead.
Just a few minutes away from getting that sample from the other side of the solar system, from the surface of asteroid Bennu at sample site Nightingale, to the rugged. Looks like winds are relatively low. Not a lot of rocking back and forth. Those parachutes seem to be perfectly smooth coming down. That parachute there. Continuing to descend. A slight little bit of tilt back and forth of our SRC as it comes to its resting velocity of 11 miles per hour as it makes that final descent. That parachute deployment was given internally by the spacecraft. All of what you're seeing now is autonomous on board that SRC. And once that successfully lands, the teams will begin the next crucial phase of this mission, the sample recovery operations. They've been rehearsing for this moment for months, literally years really, leading up to this key moment, and are ready to begin those operations to get that SRC into our portable clean room here and extract that sample canister within. According to my watch, we're about 5 minutes away from landing with our SRC. And as we heard a few moments ago, helicopters 1 and 2 are already staged and ready to begin those recovery operations just as soon as we have confirmation of touchdown. This is a variable clock, so this could be a little bit faster, a little bit slower as we get closer in. This wind speed here is a variable that is quite hard to predict, especially once you're high up in the atmosphere. We did release a weather balloon earlier on this afternoon, or earlier on this morning rather, to get a profile of our atmospheric conditions. The team puts those into various models as they prepare for this key moment. But once again, they are a little bit hard to predict, a little bit of variability, so we may kind of bounce around a little bit on that predicted OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule touchdown time. The ground really closing in now on that SRC.
EDL milestone. Helo 1 has visual on the SRC below the chute.
That is phenomenal. Let's see that view here from that first helicopter. They've got visual on the sample return capsule under parachute, that orange creamsicle colored parachute, really bright in the morning light over the Utah Test and Training Range. A great view of the SRC we can have now from our helicopter as it continues to make its final descent to the terrain below. And once again, just setting the context for this, when we first hit the top of the atmosphere, we were at 27,650 miles per hour. We are now leisurely decelerating under our orange parachute to 11 miles per hour. Incredible amount of deceleration there as Earth's atmosphere really helped us out quite a bit, getting that initial deceleration. Our drogue parachute initially stabilizing our descent, and then ultimately that main parachute bringing us home. You can see right in the center of that crosshair, that is the parachute with the SRC dangling beneath. The team on the WB-57 doing
EDL milestone. We have touchdown. I repeat, EDL SRC has touchdown.
And touchdown.
It has touchdown already.
Capsule. A journey of 1 billion miles to asteroid Bennu and back has come to an end, marking America's first sample return mission of its kind and opening a time capsule to our ancient solar system.
That was, yes. That, just to be clear, once again, to repeat, touchdown. It seemed to have happened a little more swiftly than they were anticipating. It touchdown maybe a minute or two early. That doesn't suggest a problem or anything like that, because the velocity was about 12 miles an hour, 20 kilometers an hour or so. Not really all that significant on this test range. Everything seems to have gone very, very smoothly. Yes, these people are obviously happy, so they should be. A billion-mile journey, one and a half billion kilometers, an immense journey undertaken to this asteroid, near-Earth asteroid, and yet, even though being near Earth, it has traveled a significant distance. of course, being
It was in a
launched in
rush to get back here,
2018,
carrying
pacing the
an amazing amount of
asteroid for a
scientific information
considerable
within.
period of time.
The team is
Almost
eager to
lost
crack
the
that SRC open,
asteroid
get the sample canister
when the
within, and
touchdown,
begin
the moment of
process of
sample
understanding
return
the
was
origins
made
of our solar
because it was
system
a rock
and
pile
potentially
asteroid,
origins
gave
of
way
life.
so quickly, had no surface elasticity as we were expecting. Almost lost the probe there, but it fired its engines just in
We're not in
time
the clear just yet. A
and
key
took
piece
it
of the
back
mission is
up
about
with
to
a
get
lot
underway.
of
This is
samples
the
in tow.
recovery
Too
operation
much
phase. Once the
samples,
team has
actually.
officially
So they had
confirmed
problems
the
with
exact
that,
touchdown
trying to get
location,
the container
they'll be
sealed
flying
up
on 4
properly.
separate helicopters.
Many
They operate
challenges
much
that
like a
this
Formula
mission
1 pit
went
crew, if you will, to
through,
recover the
and
SRC,
yet
take
NASA
environmental
met
samples
all
at the
of
landing
these
zone, the
challenges
LZ.
with the
Everyone has a role to
typical
play.
efficiency,
It's going to be
the typical
simultaneous action as they get that
skill
SRC
that
recovered
NASA
and begin to do
demonstrates
an
over and
environmental
over again,
safety sweep,
in spite of the
collecting samples
problems
along
they
the way.
may encounter in building rockets. Man, they are good at doing things like
You see our
this,
mission ops team
and
just
we
next
appear
door.
to have a successful return of this of the OSIRIS-REx mission, and these few ounces of samples from the Bennu asteroid. And it will be very interesting indeed to see what has been retrieved. Right now, we can't say for certain that the pod is totally intact, or that the sample wasn't contaminated in some way, or that the heat shield may have had some problems. There are many things that could have compromised the payload, but again, that I think is unlikely at this stage, given how smoothly everything went. I'm feeling really optimistic about what has happened. So the next steps that we have coming up, John, my God, producer had to remind me. Thank you so much for that generous support. Once again, guys, it makes all the difference in the world to me, because got a big thing coming up here, going to Europe on October 2nd, where I intend to continue my tour. So any of you guys in Europe want to support that, I will be visiting 2 cities per country, assuming they're large countries like Belgium, Holland, etc. I'll be going to 1 city there, but to other nations, at least 2 cities per country. It'll be starting off in the UK with London, and then a city up in the north, either Edinburgh or Manchester. Need to make a decision there. So come to York. Ian, that's too much. And I love York, by the way. York is one of my favorite places in Britain. So yeah, I might indeed do that. So once again, guys, big stuff coming up. And if you want to support that, it's in the description, my GoFundMe page. And those of you contributing super chats, that helps there too. So, but all of that is unimportant and boring stuff compared to what just happened here. Huge accomplishment on the part of NASA. Something that has never happened before with NASA. Real American, thank you. Your second super chat for this particular broadcast. Thanks so much for your incredible generosity, and your incredible generosity, John. Everybody's just been throwing in huge support during this broadcast. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And as I say, going to a good cause, because we will be. I intend to continue my tour of Europe once I arrive in Britain. So very excited indeed about all of that. So yeah, amazing moment indeed. So right now, again, the next steps, they're going to approach it and determine the safety of the spacecraft, whether or not the heat has dissipated sufficiently before they send in a scientific team. Then the scientific team will recover the pod, and it'll be on its way to Johnson. So neat stuff coming up for this, and it will be a few weeks before we get any real information about this, although we'll probably find out a lot sooner than that as to whether or not the sample has survived intact or whether it's been compromised. Again, I find it highly unlikely that the sample has been compromised at this point. I think it's far more likely that it's safe and intact, given how smoothly this reentry process worked. Again, for all the challenges that NASA faces, they make this kind of stuff look easy. They really, really do. Exciting. Producer, can you tell me if they've given any kind of estimate as to whether or not they're going to be, or when they're going to be approaching the capsule? Yeah. All right. So apparently that we have a team approaching the LZ already. I'm going to hang out here with you for a little bit longer to see if that. Okay, so we have a chopper approaching this. I definitely want to hang around long enough for us to get an up close and personal view of the pod rather than what we're looking at right now. I think that that would be a cool thing. Is this the furthest a craft has ever been and returned? Asked Simon. I don't know, because I know that the Japanese sample returns have also been very ambitious. And successful, by the way. So I'm not certain. I'd be interesting to look that up. But what we do know, of course, is this is a very, very considerable distance indeed. The only thing that might eclipse this in the future will be the Mars sample return mission. All right. So once again, we are waiting for the chopper to approach. I definitely would like to see the images that we're going to get from the helicopter. Once again, if you're just joining us, the OSIRIS-REx mission appears to have been a complete success. The sample pod having been returned, the atmospheric reentry seems to have gone very smoothly. Parachute deployment, no problem. Touchdown in the area where they wanted it. So everything seems to have gone as close to perfectly as one could have hoped. Once again, NASA making all of this stuff look easy. Amazing stuff. By the way, guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. All right. All right. So we are, once again, we are waiting for further information from NASA on the helicopter. We'll get a better look at the pod to determine its integrity, to make sure that at least get our first look as to whether or not it's in good shape. We would expect that it probably is, given how well the reentry went. Can't say for certain until you actually have a good look at it. I'm curious about the progress of the helicopter. Kind of uncertain as to why it's taking so long. But then once again, who knows where it was prior to this? They might have been anticipating that the pod would come down in a different area. This is a very, very large test range here in Utah, so that could take a while. Yeah. And now they're talking about that right now in terms of the amount of distance that they're going to have to cover, first by helicopter, and then they're going to have to come in with vehicles after that. So. We are still waiting on the chopper to arrive. In the meantime, feel free to contribute. In terms of questions, anything you want to ask, and it doesn't even have to be about this. Be happy to take any questions that you might have in the meantime. Yeah, good point that was just made. Stephen, this is a huge region the size of Rhode Island. And again, one of the reasons why they use this area. It's a big, secure region of the country. where, if anything turns out to be dangerous on this pod, which of course is virtually impossible, but nevertheless, we want to be safe. If for some reason this brought back some sort of microorganism or something like that, we want to make sure that it remains isolated. Also, we want to make sure that this thing doesn't come, smacking anybody in the head, that sort of thing. So obviously you want a big, uninhabited, secure region to recover this. Can there be any radioactive elements in the sample? Unlikely, because C-class asteroids are not known to have radioactive elements or any of that sort of thing. If we were to find radioactive elements in an asteroid, it would be more likely to recover those sorts of things from a nickel-iron asteroid that has more metallic elements, rare earths, rare metals, etc. That might be where we would expect to find that sort of thing more frequently. So no, there should not be any radioactives, although it is very interesting indeed that the meteor that fragments that Avi Loeb, or whatever fragments they were, we still have no idea if it's really a meteor, that Avi Loeb recovered in the Pacific did indeed have radioactives in the sample. So make of that what you will. Dream Chaser. But I am waiting for more information. I've actually been in contact with Sierra Space a lot lately. So I'm trying to secure a follow-up interview with them. This is very interesting. The parachute deployed at 20,000 feet instead of at 5,000 feet as it was intended to do. Can't imagine that this had too much of an impact on the whole process. The only thing it might have done is cause the capsule to drift considerably from where they originally intended it to go, but they know where it is. So that shouldn't be a problem. And having the parachute deploy way too early, that shouldn't be a problem. Let's hope. ULA working on B4 alternatives. The BE4 is in good shape. There aren't, just to be clear on the BE4, that they had an engine blow up, but that was an engine that hadn't even gone through its certification process. SpaceX loses Raptor engines, just like Blue Origin lost that BE4. So the two BE4 engines that are currently on the first Vulcan that's going to be carrying Peregrine, they're in very good shape, at least as far as we know. And the BE4s for the Sierra Space mission are fine too. They replaced the one that was having problems. And there shouldn't be an issue there. The issue primarily with Vulcan Centaur is still the Centaur upper stage. It was the BE4 for a very long period of time, the BE4 engine, but now it appears to just be the Centaur, and they appear to have completed their work on that as well. Essentially customizing and adding the necessary steel, adding a little bit more thickness to that on the Centaur, so that it can handle the pressures. Given the fact that they had a test article blow up, all of that is largely done. Once again, Tory Bruno anticipating a launch in December. That is what he's continuing. That's his story, and he's sticking to it. So yeah, they're still very much committed to BE4. I don't know if that's a good idea, but they're committed to it. Okay, so helicopters have arrived on site. All right, so we have vehicles approaching the LZ at the moment. Helicopters are on site. Unfortunately, we're not getting any images from the choppers right now. But at least we are getting we have information that the vehicles are now en route. Next Blue Origin engine be called BE after. Yeah. Interstellar meteors being acceleration mass, Oumuamua, or interlopers. The interesting thing is that we had an interstellar meteor that encountered the Earth in 2017, splashed down off the coast of Portugal. At the same time, and at the same speed, same trajectories, a similar trajectory that is to that of Oumuamua. Lots of things making connections between Oumuamua and the object that collided with our planet in 2000. So now we have an image, by the way. Okay, so now there we go. Yep. All right. So there's our pod. Looking good. Looking good, guys. Once again, not getting enough detail to be sure. But at least we don't see fragments scattered all over the desert or anything like that. Okay, so the pod appears to be sitting on its heat shield right now. Again, everything looking good so far. Once again, we can't say for certain about the integrity of it, but it's looking pretty good. Yeah, the EPA making sure that no wildlife was harmed. Well, fortunately, it was coming down so slow, I'm pretty sure that any lizards or anything got out of that thing's way without a problem. Lizards are pretty good at staying out of trouble. That was an interesting thing, too, immediately after the April 20th event in Boca Chica. One thing that I saw was a lot of lizards running around. They seem to have survived the experience okay. Again, things looking pretty good. Yeah, they conveniently put it close to the road. It conveniently set down close to the road. That made it really nice indeed. So yeah, again, looking very positive. Vehicles en route currently. Again, the first group of vehicles will determine the safety issues, determining whether or not the pod is cooled down sufficiently for a scientific team to approach, and then after that, the scientific teams will be the next up. And while we're waiting, once again, please please subscribe. And again, a big thank you to everybody who's been contributing either through super chats or through my GoFundMe in the description, because that's going towards a European leg of my tour. North America tour has been so much fun, by the way. Really been an amazing experience in Orlando, in Pittsburgh, in Toronto, in Cincinnati, and now in Denver a week from today from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Westminster Rec Center. Super excited to share my information with all of you, all of my Colorado viewers. Very excited to meet all of you. So neat stuff. And once again, none of this could have happened without your support. So I deeply, deeply appreciate all of that. It looks like we have a chopper. One of the two choppers has sat down. Yeah, Andy just brought up a very good point. The main spacecraft is not even in orbit. The main spacecraft is heading back out into space. The original trajectory of the OSIRIS-REx mission was designed to where, in theory, if there is a problem with deploying the payload the first time around, it could come back in 2025 and give it another shot. But of course, this is still a fully functional and operating spacecraft that's capable of carrying out ancillary missions, and I think we have things on the horizon for it. So exciting stuff coming up. Yeah, it does kind of look like the thing out of the pot out of the Andromeda strain, doesn't it? Well, if they open it up and everybody just kind of seizes up and falls over, then we know we need to evacuate the whole western section of the country. Everybody just needs to start running and screaming. Once again, my producer was listening to the Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast, which scared the hell out of so many people back in the 1930s. And once again, to be clear, almost certainly no bacterial life of any kind inside this thing. There's no liquid water in Bennu at any time in its history, even though it has ice in it. Without liquid water, you really don't get life of any kind evolving. So now we are waiting again on the retrieval group. Again, the first group going out to determine the safety of the capsule. Then the second group will be the scientific group. And all of this could take a considerable amount of time. I'm just kind of waiting to see if we can get any sort of early indications from the recovery group as to whether or not they think that the capsule looks intact and that the payload looks secure and not contaminated in any way. And then we have a chopper. It looks like we may have a vehicle that's arrived too. I don't know. This movie starts with something crawling out of the pod. That would be funny. So a lot of this process is always hurry up and wait. Feel free to ask any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Anything in regards to other topics aside from what we're looking at now or about this. Once again, an amazing mission. It is incredibly difficult to intercept any object in space. To intercept an object as tiny as Bennu is even more challenging without gravity and without any sort of surface to land on, any sort of surface that has any sort of stability to it. That's a big challenge. Then it's a big challenge to recover anything from an object like that, to bring it back, re-enter the atmosphere. All of those things just adds so many more layers of difficulty to the mission. And yet that is indeed what NASA has managed to accomplish here today. Truly, truly astonishing. Really wonderful stuff. Yeah, spacefaring extremophiles, that is possible. However, spacefaring extremophiles would have had to have come from somewhere. It couldn't have evolved on the asteroid or asteroid itself, at least not as life as we understand it, because there's no liquid water. Now, perhaps something that came from another planet that impacted with Bennu with extremophiles on it. Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to put that beyond the realm of possibility, but I would say it's pretty damn unlikely. And describing the various types of protection that's included with this sample capsule, kind of like one of those Russian nesting dolls, one after another, ensuring the safety of the sample to make sure that it doesn't get contaminated by our atmosphere, doesn't get contaminated by anything on the surface, because that would ruin the whole damn thing. So thus far, the capsule seems to have survived intact, and I would say whatever's inside it is probably in really good shape. Once again, please don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. OSIRIS-REx pod landed near public. Yeah, isn't that amazing? I don't know if that's a public highway. I would say it's probably more of a road within the test range. That's very much under military control. But it's convenient where it's set down. The only unusual thing about this process thus far, once again to repeat, is that the parachutes seem to have opened too soon. They're supposed to have opened at about 20,000 or 5,000 feet, rather. They open at about 20,000. That's the main chutes. But the only consequences that should have created is the pod wandering too far, drifting a long ways, which it didn't. I mean, we can see where it is right there. So we're okay in that regard. And yes, we have a discussion of asteroid mining going on in the chat too. I like it when folks start chatting with each other in there. Asteroid mining. Oh, look! Oh, we got people approaching. Look how tiny that thing actually is. You don't really appreciate just how small that pod is until you actually have people approaching it. Once again, this first team, in my understanding, their job is just to make sure that it's not hot, that it's not compromised in any way, and that it's safe for scientists to approach it. Nuclear potato. Hey, yes, maybe Superman's inside it. Looks about the right size. A baby Superman. All right. So this is the first team. Once again, there doesn't seem to be any indications, as near as we can tell, that that there's any problems. They're pacing the area to determine if there any debris from the pod or any fragments of the pod or something may have broken off. Areas of interest, as they call it. Just in case there are any issues with the pod. So they're having a quick look around there for the scientific team to examine it. So that's very interesting indeed. Yeah, I mean, well, any spacecraft has to have heating elements Anton, in order to keep the components. And also you need to have heat radiators too, because they're exposed to heat from the sun all the time. So they have to radiate that heat away. And you also, on the occasions where you're not as exposed to the sun's energy or just the side of it, then you need to have heating. So any spacecraft has to have that process. It's provided in a variety of different ways. So, what keeps the spacecraft in operation is also going to keep the sample stable. However, it's important to note that this sample has been exposed to the rigors of space for a long period of time. Whatever they have retrieved has been blasted with solar radiation and cosmic rays for millions of years. And exposed to everything else that space could have thrown at it for a very long period of time. So once again, not all that critical to keep the sample in a different environment than it was in when it was out in space. Better to rather keep it sealed and isolated from outside influence and the atmosphere, that sort of thing. It's probably more important. All right. Another thing they're talking about is the possibility of if the battery was damaged during the reentry or on impact, it is lithium disulfide. And if any of those gases had escaped, and if the integrity of the pod had been breached to any degree, the lithium disulfide would contaminate the sample. There are many ways that this could have gone wrong. So now we just need to see if it did indeed go wrong or go right. So far, everything seems to be good. And once again, there's not much here either. We're only talking a few ounces. All right. So yeah, we are now going through the process of extracting the sample of pulling that out so it can be taken to the clean rooms. Right. So once again, I'm just so you guys know, I'm trying to convey points of interest that NASA is talking about right now. I'm getting a lot of their information. So in any event, as you can see, once again, just going through the various steps necessary to extract this sample. And again, the sample itself is contained, sealed. At least it should be. And so then it needs to be transported to NASA's clean rooms. And this is a very methodical process and one that may take a considerable amount of time in order to make sure that everything is done properly, safely, and to, no hazmat suits. Once again, I would say that they're doing that because they're very confident that there's nothing hazardous in it. There would certainly be no radioactives. There should be no radioactives. C-class asteroids wouldn't have radioactives. But yeah, if there are any sort of bacteria, any sort of viral thing, extraterrestrial organism, they would be fully exposed to it. But I think they're feeling very confident that that is not the case, and I think they're justified in feeling confident about that. But yeah, keep a close eye on the person near it. Yep. Anybody seizes up like in the Andromeda strain, just kind of drops over or whatever, then yeah, definitely time to start running and screaming. All right. Stephen, that would probably be ideal. Your question about mining psyche would be a good idea. What has just happened? Hold on. Okay, the team is now retreating from the object. I'm curious, have they retrieved the sample? Okay, well, apparently they're on at NASA. They're starting over from where the action started and all that, which is not necessarily what we're interested in at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can check some other sources real quick to determine whether or not they've actually managed to retrieve the sample. Right. Okay. So that was the first team that that preps the site before the scientific team arrives. All right. And and once again, that is something that we expect to see. That was just part of the process. If there was any sort of problem, we would know about it by now. There seems to be no issues, at least with the integrity of the vehicle. And once again, obviously, it is cooled down sufficiently as well for a scientific team to now approach. The scientific team, their responsibility, of course, is to extract the sample and to return it to NASA's clean rooms. So we're pretty close to the final step, at least in the recovery phase. Having the science team retrieve the sample, and then off they go to NASA's clean rooms. So trying to get some sort of update. And yeah, Oscar, that's kind of what I thought at first too, but no, apparently they're going to extract the sample itself from the pod. So just a moment, I'm trying to see if I can get some other information here. No. No updates that I can see. All right, so yeah, once again, we have the pod kind of on its own. All right, so we have Stu Wiley. By the way, in case you're interested, that was Stu Wiley and Vicky Thiem from Lockheed Martin. And what they were doing is conducting a safety survey of the surrounding area and of the capsule itself before they allowed the scientific team to approach. So that's what we were just watching there. Now we apparently have the scientific team approaching. And now comes the moment of truth. Did the sample survive intact? They should be able to get a good idea as to whether or not there was any sort of, if it got compromised at all. It's really amazing that we get to watch all this stuff in real time. It's very cool. All right. So the information that we have is that there's no indication that that the capsule was breached at all. Everything seems to be intact. The integrity of the sample seems to be secured. I think we have a successful mission here, guys. It doesn't look like anything went wrong here. Once again, the scientific team maybe having a quick discussion on how they're going to proceed with all this before they actually approach the pod itself. But right now, things seem to have gone very, very well indeed. And yeah, if the recovery takes all day, so what, says Andy? And he's absolutely right. They can take all the time they want. It's interesting to note that that when Dr. Carter broke into the Tutankhamun's tomb, and he made that famous statement, "I see wonderful things." Instead of charging into all of these amazing artifacts and all this gold and everything just totally different from anything an archaeologist had ever laid eyes on, he methodically took everything out one piece at a time, cataloging it, everything. He's the kind of guy who could eat one salted peanut and be satisfied with that. And this is the kind of process that any good scientist goes through. Let's go through things slowly, carefully, methodically to make sure that we don't screw anything up. All right. So, guys, at this point, I think we can break away from our coverage because everything looks good here. It's going to take a considerable amount of time for them to get everything done that they need to do before they bring the sample to the helicopter. Obviously, the pod itself will be recovered as well, but the sample needs to be recovered separately and brought to NASA's clean rooms. It's going to be a while before we get any sort of results from what they have recovered, but still, we can't understate everything that's happened here. Truly amazing. OSIRIS-REx being launched back in 2018, pacing the Bennu asteroid, an asteroid that could potentially present a threat to our planet sometime in the future. This has a practical value as well as a scientific value. And then nearly being lost during its landing because of the strange nature of rock pile asteroids. And then the sample itself, that they gathered too much of it, had a hard time sealing up. So many challenges that NASA had to go through to get to this stage. If anything, any one of these things had gone seriously wrong during this process, the whole mission would have been a failure. Instead, from what it seems at this point, it has been a glorious success. And obviously, all of us definitely want to offer our deepest congratulations to NASA for their amazing accomplishment here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And once again, if you want to see a continuation of my tour in Europe, well, check out my GoFundMe page in the description. And thanks so much for your generous support. So until next time, guys, and I got more content coming for you soon, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.